the biggest personal information leak incident in Korea's history. We will find out the significance of protecting personal information and its fundamental alternatives. The biggest U.S. satellite television provider, DirecTV, meets Arirang TV. What is the significance of the latest deal and its impact on balance of trade in Hallyu? Experiencing cultural heritage becomes more vivid as tourism meets ICT. We introduce a smart tourism service based on augmented reality. There is a CG company that succeeded in advancing abroad with its distinctive technological skills. We will find out what Next Visual Studio's competitiveness is. Kim Jong-un's aggressive sports promotion policy. We will explore the causes and intentions hidden behind this policy.
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon, and welcome to Bizline. Today, we'll be looking at Korea's balance of trade in culture and entertainment products, and seeing how this broadcaster might make a difference. We'll also be looking at CG, computer graphics for movies. We'll be seeing how 21st century technologies are being embedded in medieval palaces, and we'll be showing you how to protect some of your personal data online. So, do stay with us. But before we go to those and other features, let's first take a look at all the breaking business and economic news hitting headlines across Korea this week.
The domestic auto industry was Korea's star player in the export market last year. Korea's trade ministry said that the sector's trade surplus hit a record high of $63 billion in 2013. That was the highest surplus among all the country's export categories. The ministry attributes last year's record to a rise in quality competitiveness and enhanced brand value, along with the increased popularity overseas of Korea's large cars and recreational vehicles. The Financial Supervisory Service said that the net profit of 18 domestic banks come in at roughly $3.7 billion in 2013, which represents a more than 50% drop from the year before. The drop was particularly pronounced in the fourth quarter of last year, when a loss of $94 million was recorded. An official attributed the numbers to low interest rates and bad loans. The Trade Ministry said that the chief negotiators of Korea and Australia installed the Free Trade Agreement on February 10th and agreed to formally sign it in the first half of this year. The trade pact is expected to boost exports of Korean products such as automobiles and televisions, but there are concerns that it could pose a threat to local farmers. Two-way trade between Korea and Australia totaled at over $30 billion in 2013.
On any given day, we can expect to receive a range of unwanted calls from telemarketers. Meanwhile, unwanted emails are piling up in our inboxes. Where does all this spam come from? How easily accessible is our personal data to the spammers? And perhaps most importantly, what can we do to protect ourselves?
Fast development of information communication technology has drastically changed how we live. It has brought us convenience, but there have also been unwanted side effects. One of them is cybercrime. It is unwantedly exposing precious personal data. Personal information contains important data to distinguish one's identity, such as name, telephone number, and personal identification numbers. Recently, Korea was struck with the biggest breach of personal information in its history. An employee from an outsourcing company accessed the credit card company's client database and stole 150 million of them in a USB storage device. When the news broke, clients rushed to renew their credit cards, and some 3 million new cards were issued. Even after 1 month, citizens are still worried.
카드를 몇 가지 쓰고 있는데 대출이라던가 각종 전화가 와요. 그런데 어떻게 알고서 그 정보들이 다 새 나가가지고 전화가 많이 와요. 그런 게 굉장히 불쾌하다고.
Since 2011, there have been 4,138 reported incidents worldwide of users' data breach. The biggest data breach in the world happened in 2012 in China. Some 150 million cases of data was taken from a direct marketing firm, Shanghai Roadway DMB. Payment processing company Heartland Payment Systems in the US recorded the second biggest data breach incident, with 130 million cases of data. South Korean credit card firm's data breach this time around marks third.
가장 큰 원인은 개인정보가 돈이 된다는 겁니다. 그리고 그 개인정보가 돈이 된다는 사실을 해커들도 충분히 알고 있고요. 그런 반면에 또 각종 그 SNS 서비스, 즉 자신의 어떤 개인정보를 인터넷에 과시하거나 올림으로 해서 어떤 이제 어떤 사업을 하는 그런 어떤 종류의 서비스가 굉장히 많아지고 있단 말이죠. 그래서 이런 어떤 환경적인 조건이 맞물리다 보니까 개인정보 유출 사고가 많아지는 것 같습니다.
In order to prevent such personal data breaches by credit card companies from reoccurring, the South Korean government announced a comprehensive measure to protect personal information held by financial institutions. Measures include prevention of collection of unnecessary personal information, and financial institutions that are responsible for the data breach will be penalized through a punitive fine matching 1% of its revenue. Moreover, personal information collected unlawfully cannot be used for marketing to gather borrowers. The government is set to enforce tougher penalties on financial institutions for such incidents happening in the future. In that respect, implementing punitive fines is considered taking a step forward. However, market watchers and experts are not satisfied with the government plan.
이러한 식은 단발적으로 그 개인정보 유출을 방지는 할 수 있겠지만 근본적인 해결책이라고는 보지 않고 있습니다. 시민단체에서는 금융지주 회사 법률 같은 것들을 개정을 해서라도 무분별하게 개인정보를 공유하는 것을 금지를 하거나 최근에 이제 주민등록법을 개정을 해서 이미 유출된 개인정보인 주민등록번호를 약간 바꾸는 변경을 가능케 하는 식으로 아주 근본적으로 바꿔야 된다라고 지금 주장을 하고 있습니다.
However, nothing can be foolproof. The main cause for information leakage is due to the wide practice of sharing information among companies. There are at least 3 terms to agree to in order to get a membership on the web service. And one of the terms is giving permission to give personal data to a third party.
동의를 해야 하는 약관들이 너무 길고 읽기에는 좀 많이 어려워요. 전문 용어들도 많이 나오고 그래서 읽지 않고 바로 동의를 누르고 이제 회원 가입을 하는 편이에요.
When subscribing or making card payments, it is impossible to access the service without agreeing to the terms of providing personal information. Users are forced into the agreement.
좀 뭐라고 해야 되지? 기분이 좋진 않은 것 같아요. 내 정보를 왜 공유를 해야 되는지도 모르겠고 근데 그렇다고 제가 사야 하는 물건들이 있을 때 이제 이용을 안 할 수도 없는 거니까 소비자 입장에서는 어쩔 수 없는 것 같아요.
A study conducted by a lawmaker at the National Assembly shows that there isn't enough budget spent to protect personal data. A survey of 116 financial institutions in 2012 revealed that only 62% of them actually spent the budget allotted for such purposes.
CEO들이 정보 보호를 제대로 안 하면 내 목이 날아가는구나. 회사가 문을 닫을 수 있겠구나 라고 인식하는 게 제일 첫 번째입니다. 그리고 두 번째는 예산을 확대하되 그것들을 내부 직원을 활용해서 하려고 해야지 아웃소싱을 자꾸 하려고 들면 언젠가는 문제가 되게 돼 있습니다.
Moreover, there should be a streamlining of security systems that are divided intricately.
당연히 고객의 개인 정보라면은 한 서버에만 또 집중되어 있는 건 문제가 있지만 그 집중되어서 관리가 되는 철저한 그 안전한 그 저장 공간이 있다면은 거기에서는 절대 그 복사나 이런 것들이 불가능할 정도로 그런 장치들을 마련을 해서 아주 기초적인 그런 보안책을 마련해야 된다고 생각합니다.
In the digital society of high-tech in information and communication, personal information is enough to prove one's existence. To prevent unwanted exploitation of personal data through cybercrime, there should be a solid measure to get to the root of the problem so that everyone can feel safe.
As of now, the channel you're watching is no longer restricted just to Korea. It's reaching a whole new range of viewers across Latin America and the USA, because Arirang TV has been picked up by DirecTV, the world's largest satellite broadcaster. So, a quick hello and buenos dias to our new viewers in those regions. It's good to have you with us. Meanwhile, South Korea in 2013 posted a surplus in its balance of trade in entertainment and cultural content goods. What effect might Arirang TV's new overseas inroad have on this future balance? Moreover, what kind of content should Arirang TV be producing to service its new viewership in Latin America and the USA? Well, to answer these questions, we have with us an expert in media studies at Sukmyang Women's University here in Seoul. Here's Professor Lee Byung-jung. BJ, welcome to Bizline.
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
Andy.
let's start off with the figures, BJ. This so-called Hallyu, or Korean wave balance, the balance of trade in entertainment and cultural content. What were the numbers last year? How big was this surplus?
We are talking about the Korean exports of
Right.
culture and entertainment contents
Sure.
during the year of 2013.
Yeah.
The amount was $160 million. The amount itself is not that big,
It's not a huge amount.
but you have to look at the change from the previous year. The increase rate is 160%, more than double. So that means our Korea's cultural contents and entertainment contents are being exported to many parts of the world and loved by many fans around the world.
Okay. Looking at the various areas of cultural content, from pop to computer gaming, what areas particularly stand out? What is taking up the bulk of these exports?
We are talking about, about 5 or 6 different types of culture and entertainment contents, starting with TV dramas.
Yeah.
They are still popular in many parts of Asia. The movies, TV dramas like the Daejanggeum,
The Jewel in the Palace.
The Jewel in the
Yeah.
Palace, Winter Sonata.
Winter
They are old
Sonata,
ones,
right.
but they are new ones. All these TV dramas are still popular, and also we have music videos. It was 2012 actually, Psy's Gangnam Style, that
course, yeah.
music video, but that's not the only one. There are lots of K-pop groups which are popular in many parts of the world, so their music video also takes up bulk of this export. And thirdly, we have movies. Korean movies actually are not as popular as they used to be, but there are new movies, newly made movies, which became successful in untested markets, like France. Last year, we had this movie called Snowpiercer.
Based on a French graphic novel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on top of that, we have digital contents, talking about general stuff, and also games. Computer games.
Right.
They are also still very popular item for Korean export.
Now, obviously, this is not a big trend in terms of money. Samsung Electronics exports a whole lot more than all of this stuff put together. But in terms of actually branding Korea and making people interested in Korea, it drives a lot of interest into the country. But where is this content being viewed? What regions specifically are picking up Korean content? Is it still restricted largely to Asia?
Main market is still Asia.
Yeah.
China, Japan, Taiwan, and many countries in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
They are still the #1 market for Korean cultural items. But now these markets are expanding to many other parts of the world. We're talking about Europe, Latin America, and North America, and even these far corners of Africa.
Yeah.
They are watching Korean movies and listening to Korean music. And particularly Latin America, I believe, is a phenomenal case because given the distance between
Yeah.
Latin America and Korea, it's very phenomenal.
Yeah,
Because
and that's a big cultural distance as well as a geographical distance, right?
Exactly. And not that many things we have in common between Korea and Latin America, but they are paying great attention to what we have, our
Yeah.
programs, our contents.
I was in the US, France, and Southeast Asia last year. Now, in Malaysia, you can see Korean cultural content everywhere, from makeup products to movie stars to digital media. I was also in the US, couldn't really see much. UK, likewise. In France, there was a little bit more visibility, but clearly it's still a niche product in Western markets. Is there a way for Korean cultural content, for Hallyu, to break into the mainstream Western market?
It's not easy. I believe it will take some time for Korean, cultural contents to penetrate those unfamiliar markets, because culturally, emotionally, they are different.
With different animals.
In
aren't we?
Asia, we have something in common. We have same emotions, same ideas, same values, so they can, enjoy our programs. But in Europe, it's a different market. But what they have to do to make their products also popular in those parts of the world, I believe they need to make more universally minded programs, contents, contents which can appeal to many different people with different ideas and cultures. I believe Korean culture producers, they need to have more universal approach. Themes they can appeal to other people with different ideas and different cultural backgrounds, which is not easy, I believe. But again, that's the only way. Otherwise, the Korean culture wave or Korean Hallyu can not, last long, I believe.
Let's move on to DirecTV. Now, it's a public interest channel of the US satellite operator DirecTV. Arirang TV goes on air from February 21st across the USA and across Latin America. Firstly, tell us about DirecTV. What is a public interest channel exactly?
Let me tell you first about DirecTV,
Shoot. Yeah.
which is, as you said, the largest satellite broadcaster in the world.
Yeah.
They have, at the moment, more than 20 million subscribers.
Okay.
They charge these 20 million households money regularly.
Okay.
And it's a very successful business in North America and also in some parts of Latin America.
Right.
Out of these 20 million subscribers in North America, 10 million subscribers belong to the so-called public interest channels. They watch these basic channels, basically. This means 10 million people in the US will watch Arirang TV, I guess, from today. That means Arirang TV is reaching out to the mainstream audience of the US market. I believe this is the first time for any Asian channel. NHK of Japan, CCTV of China, they are also accessible by American audiences. But these channels do not belong to the main public interest channels. So it means those channels are sort of specialized channels.
Yeah.
But now Arirang TV is becoming a basic channel for American market, American viewers. Okay. This is very significant.
Yeah. Okay. You were talking just now about it being is it a pay-per-view channel? What is the financial model? Does Arirang TV stand to make much cash out of this? We were talking just now about the trade balance.
I guess Arirang TV will contribute to this phenomena of Korea's cultural surplus, because basically Arirang TV will be exporting its contents to the US market. So this will again help Korea to gain more trade surplus in the area of culture and entertainment programs. Initially, the amount will not be big, but as Arirang TV reaches a wider range of audience in the US, and as they demand more programs about Korea, I believe the possibility is very high.
Will rise.
Of course.
Okay, so I might expect a pay rise in the near future.
Yes. Of
Okay,
course.
well, let's hope so.
You can expect that, I believe.
Okay. Now, this move does suggest that Arirang TV will be reaching a pretty major new audience, well beyond mainstream Asian audiences. What do you think Latin American and North American audiences might want from Korea? Traditionally, the interest in Korea has been business. People want business information, hence this program. Of course, around Asia, people want entertainment content. Other people, of course, are very interested in North Korea. And then there's the whole issue of traditional Korean culture, modern Korean culture, current affairs, and so on. What kind of content do you think Arirang TV should be aiming at the North and South American markets?
I believe Arirang TV has to look at two sides of this. One is news program. The other is entertainment program, culture entertainment program, as you said. These new inroad into the US market through direct TV means Arirang TV is reaching the general public of the US, general ordinary Americans, as well as opinion leaders of the US and North America and Latin America, decision makers, political leaders, business leaders. These people want more information about Korea, more news about Korea. As you know, Korea's status in this world stage is rising, economically, diplomatically, culturally. There's a growing interest in anything about Korea. It's not just about North Korea and geopolitical issues. It's about domestic political situation and Korean economy and Korean companies. Companies like Samsung, LG, they interest a lot of people around the world, particularly business leaders in the American continent. And news program on Korean business, Korean politics, Korean diplomacy and security will be the top priority for these opinion leaders in the US market. Secondly, for the general public in the US, this will be a demand for cultural programs, more K-pop programs, even dramas. Of course, dramas in the US, Korean dramas, have not been just successful, but this will change. As you've seen with the case of Gangnam Style and other successful Korean cultural programs in the US and Europe. They are waking up to these appealing aspects of Korean contents suddenly. So these dramas or music videos and even Korean movies can be also on your Arirang TV's main export program for the US market. So again, wrapping up, the news program for the opinion leaders and cultural programs for the general public.
Yeah, okay. As a journalist based here for the last 7 or 8 years, I've noticed probably since around late 2012, we had Gangnam Style, Samsung smartphones became the world's best sellers, and of course then we had a lot of problems with North Korea. But all these different things really have generated a wider range of interest in Korea, and we're seeing that in the last couple of years, which may be reflected in these surpluses in the balance of trade and entertainment and cultural content in the last couple of years. But for Arirang TV itself, it's part of selling Korea abroad. What does Arirang need to do to upgrade its own brand?
Arirang should try to become a broadcaster for Asia, not just Korea, because as you know, Korea is located right in the middle of this Northeast Asia, so it can play as a hub or whatever, which can relate other parts of Northeast Asia in terms of security and in terms of business news. On top of that, unlike Asian consumers, unlike Asian viewers, I believe European or American viewers are also very much interested in Korea's traditional culture, which is another great asset Korea has for its brand, for its image. So traditional culture like Korean food, Korean costumes, Korean alphabet, Hangul, which is very scientific, and Korean houses, Korean architecture, and all this traditional culture is another asset Arirang can show to the American public, American viewers, I believe.
So it sounds like you're suggesting we need more in-depth programming, more documentaries, more sort of hardcore stuff, on the news front, on the current affairs front, on the business front, and perhaps become Korea's voice in the Asian region. BJ, thank you very much indeed for being on Bizline.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, not at all. We'll have to have you
It's been
back
a
again
pleasure.
sometime. Some of the last traces of old Korea can be visited in Seoul's royal palaces. But recently, a range of 21st century technologies has been spotted sprouting amid these medieval compounds. What's happening is ICT is being deployed to upgrade the status of the palaces as tourist attractions. So keep watching to see how the very new can upgrade the very old.
The Republic of Korea is a country that has valuable cultural heritage representing 5,000 years of a long history. With just a smartphone, you can see Korea's cultural heritage as vividly as if you went back to the past in a time machine. Let's meet the Cultural Heritage Tour Guide service that has become smarter by meeting ICT technologies. Korea's Gyeongbokgung Palace represents the Joseon dynasty. It is great to stroll around the royal palace, enjoying its classical beauty, but there is a smarter way to tour Gyeongbokgung Palace. Cultural Heritage Administration of Korea and Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning have jointly launched a mobile app called Gyeongbokgung in My Hands. Using the GPS embedded in smartphones, the tour guide service is automatically implemented after downloading the application when the user arrives in front of a cultural property. We can provide various related information to visitors without damaging precious cultural heritage, as we don't need to attach a separate recognition device to each cultural property.
This is my first time using the application while going around the palace, so I think it's really convenient even for foreigners because even without guide you can find all the curious points or explanations you need.
Users can see the flower wall of Jagyongjeon at Gyeongbokgung Palace and of course see the flowers beginning to blossom and butterflies fluttering despite the sub-freezing weather of the winter via the application.
스마트폰을 통해서 구경을 하니까 꽃담을 찍으면 꽃이 피고 나비가 나오고 금정전도 사진 찍어보고 하면서 그냥 구경할 때보다 더 재밌고 흥미롭게 경복궁 구경을 할 수 있었습니다.
But how can we see a virtual image that doesn't exist in reality? The secret is the augmented reality technology applied to the application.
증강현실 기술의 가장 핵심이 되는 기술은 이미지 인식 기술입니다. 보시는 것과 같이 이 이미지에서 특징되는 점들을 뽑아서 해당되는 아이디를 파악하고 또한 이 이미지에 대한 각각의 좌표를 찾아서 이제 해당 컨텐츠들을 이 위에 뿌려주게 됩니다.
By overlapping 3D virtual images to real images, we can see virtual images more real than reality.
지금 보시고 계신 곳은 경복궁대에 걸레각사라고 하는 예전 관청이 있던 자리입니다. 보시는 것처럼 지금 복원을 하고 있는데요. 이 지금 복원한 내용을 볼 수 없기 때문에 지금 이 앱을 통해서 복원한 내용을 보실 수가 있게 되겠습니다. 보시는 것처럼 걸레각사 내용이 있고 걸레각사에 대한 설명을 들으실 수 있고요.
In addition, past images of the entire royal palace are recreated in 3D panoramas as if we came back to the Joseon dynasty in a time machine.
과거의 문화재의 어떤 역사적인 어떤 그런 이야기라든지 아니면 사람들의 어떤 모습들 그리고 소실된 문화재들을 같이 보여주기 때문에 관람객들의 만족도는 상당히 높은 것으로 파악되고 있습니다.
As the Smart Cultural Heritage Tour Guide service gained favorable responses from visitors, it is leading to revitalization of tourist sites. Indeed, in case of Deoksugung Palace, which launched the Smart Tour Guide app before Gyeongbokgung Palace, the number of its visitors rose 16.4% in the first half of last year from the year before. The application got a huge response from visitors, with 68.1% of the visitors of Deoksugung Palace using the application.
관람객들이 보다 편리하고 풍부한 정보를 즐길 수 있는 기회가 제공되기 때문에 실제로 관람객 수가 증가하는 효과가 발생하고 있습니다. 이를 통해서 지역 상권의 활성화와 매출 증가 효과가 발생하는 것으로 분석되고 있습니다.
Korea Institute of Science Technology is also studying a smart guide technology. Depending on the camera's viewing angle, you can see everywhere in the palace in detail and see the scenes of that age which can't be seen in a flat painting, such as a coronation ceremony and even an image of an agonized king in front of the Taejojeon Hall. This is a dinosaur fossil commonly seen in a museum of natural history. But the dinosaur fossil seen through Google Glass is no longer a dead dinosaur. You can meet a vividly moving dinosaur, its skeleton overlaid with animated flesh as if it is alive.
여러 개의 신에 대한 기존의 증강현실은 GPS만을 이용해서 위치 기반으로 그 위치에 가면 그 위치에 대한 정보만 유저한테 뿌려주는 그런 형식이었는데요. 저희가 지금 하려고 하는 기술은 기존에 있던 이미지 혹은 그 공간 자체의 특징을 미리 추출해서 리얼타임으로 카메라에 들어오는 프레임하고 실시간으로 비교를 함으로써 더 직관적이고 더 많은 다양한 콘텐츠를 제공해 줄 수도 있고요.
If the smart tour guide technology evolves further and wearable devices such as Google Glass that maximize the viewer's immersion are popularized, the landscapes of touring historic sites or exhibitions are likely to change in the future.
앞으로 나아가는 증강현실은 직접 이 증강현실에서 뿌려지는 정보와 이 유저가 직접 그러니까 인터랙션을 할 수 있는 그런 기술이 도입이 되는데요. 예를 들면 자연사 박물관 같은 경우에서 공룡이 나왔을 때 그 공룡과 직접 인터랙션을 할 수 있는, 그 공룡한테 먹이를 주면 그 공룡이 와서 먹이를 먹는다거나 이런 인터랙션이 가능할 수 있다고 생각이 됩니다.
Smart tour guide service that enables people to vividly meet historic sites and relics are going back and forth between the past, present, and future. Before long, we may be able to actually use ancient relics and touch the extinct dinosaurs.
In the past, movie special effects were all about having the right painted backdrop, or a guy in a rubber suit, or maybe a puppet to represent the monster or alien. That's no longer the case. Today's movie special effects are delivered via CG, computer graphics. Now, Korea is a global high-tech powerhouse and a rising force in global cinema. Given this week's Hidden Champion brings these two trends together. It's a company which is bringing high technology to movie making.
Films and visual media have taken a big space in people's world of entertainment. On average, in South Korea, a person went to the movies 4.2 to 5 times a year, which shows a noticeable rise in the country's film industry, growing to world-class levels. Among the areas developing in the film industry, visual special effects and computer graphics are worthy of a mention. Blockbusters, sci-fi, and disaster films are requiring more intricate levels of computer graphics. There is a visual special effect company in South Korea which is being sought after by many film producers from all over the world.
국내에는 저희가 한 30여 개 정도의 CG 전문 프로덕션이 있다고 지금 추정을 하고 있고요. 업체들이 가지고 있는 기술들은 지금 헐리우드에서 영화 수준하고 비교할 경우에는 약 90% 정도의 수준에 도달해 있다, 그렇게 판단하고 있습니다. 특히 중국 같은 경우는 이미 미국에 이어서 세계 2위권의 영화 시장을 지금 형성하고 있기 때문에 가까운 위치에 있는 한국 입장에서 본다 그러면은 중국 진출이 매우 지금 용이하고요. 또한 그만큼 또 기술력도 인정을 받고 있는 거기 때문에 향후에도 중국 시장을 중심으로 하는 그런 영화 프로젝트나 이렇게 이제 영상 프로젝트에 참여하는 비중은 많이 높아질 것으로 그렇게 생각하고 있습니다.
Among many computer graphics companies in operation, Next Visual Studio stands out on a grand scale. In the movie Into the Fire, battle and simulated crowd scenes received rave reviews. It is a technology well recognized in other movies produced both in Korea and abroad.
처음에는 이제 해외 작품을 저희가 하고 싶어서 첫 작품이 이제 삼국지라는 작품인데 부산 영화제 때 이제 제가 감독님을 찾아갔어요. 그래서 찾아가서 1대1로 제가 미팅을 요청을 했고 이제 사실 그때는 힘들게 작업을 처음에 따냈죠. 근데 이제 나중에는 신뢰가 쌓여서 정말 좋아하셨고요. 그런 식으로 이제 해외 작품을 하려고 마음을 먹고 처음에는 무작정 하게 됐고요. 그 다음엔 이제 시장 분석을 하고 차츰차츰 접근하기 시작했습니다.
Computers are used to create a virtual world and merged with the real image to make a scene that is more vivid than reality. So what is crucial in VFX production?
CG 기술도 기술이지만은 그 영화 제작에 들어갔을 때 뭐 시나리오에 대한 이해 그리고 뭐 연출에 대한 이해 그런 부분을 제일 먼저 선 작업을 하고 그 다음에 작업을 진행을 하고 있어서 기술력을 제일 중요시하게 생각하는데 기술력보다는 이 영화를 얼마나 이해할 수 있고 영상에 대해서 이해할 수 있는지가 제일 중요하다고 봅니다.
Next Visual Studio divides its computer graphics teams to allow them to specialize in cinema drama CG and three-dimensional images. The company developed a computer graphics program for global application, allowing for cooperative work with other companies around the world.
저희 회사가 가지고 있는 자체적으로 R&D를 한 AI Next라는 프로그램이 있습니다. 그 프로그램이 뭐냐면은 현장에서 촬영을 하면서 저희 회사에서 작업하고 있는 내용들을 현장에서 바로 컨펌할 수 있는, 그러니까 좀 요즘 스마트폰이 대세다 보니까 iOS나 안드로이드 플랫폼에 탑재되어서 AI Next에서 바로 그 데이터를 받아서 감독님이나 배우들이 보고 직접 여기에는 어떤 영상이 들어가겠구나 하고 그런 거를 바로바로 컨펌할 수 있어서 배우들의 연기 동선이나 연출의 방향성을 바로 제시할 수 있습니다.
It is gaining recognition for advanced technology as well as its price competitiveness. China's movie industry is growing rapidly and 60% of the company's revenue is generated from work done in China. After participating in projects resulting in successful movies, The Sorcerer and the White Snake and Three Kingdoms, Resurrection of the Dragon, Next Visual Studio gained further recognition for both its technical prowess and technology.
물론 이제 기술은 미국 헐리우드 쪽이나 이제 뉴질랜드 외타 쪽이 월등히 낮죠. 그런데 이제 각 나라마다 문화 차이가 있어요. 이제 미국 쪽에서 제작을 하는 CG 제작사들이 이제 중국 쪽에서 촬영하는 분들과 같이 작업하기 힘든 문화 차이가 있기 때문에 그 문화 차이를 또 한국 쪽에서 좀 충분히 극복을 할 수가 있고 또 우리나라 디자이너들이 그만큼 이제 실력도 뛰어나고요. 그래서 그걸 잘 조율할 수 있는 게 한국 제작사들의 이제 CG 제작사들의 힘인 것 같아요.
It was also nominated several times for Best Work in Visual Special Effects for many movie awards, both home and abroad, helping to build its reputation in the business. It is also expanding its specialty and applying its know-how outside the entertainment contents industry, which bodes well for Next Visual Studio's future.
CG 시장은 지금 그 컨텐츠 분야뿐만 아니고 비컨텐츠 분야의 활용폭이 매우 넓기 때문에 앞으로도 그 활용될 수 있는 대상 분야와 그 다음에 산업의 그 기여도가 매우 크기 때문에 시장도 대폭적으로 계속 성장할 것으로 예상을 하고 있습니다. 컨텐츠 분야 산업과 그 다음 비컨텐츠 산업도 같이 그 지금의 어떤 시장 규모보다 훨씬 더 큰 시장 규모로 성장할 것이고 그리고 또 새로운 시장을 만들어내는 그런 데도 크게 기여를 할 것으로 생각합니다.
After building its expertise in the domestic VFX market, Next Visual Studio is taking a step further into the global market. It is the leader of Korea's entertainment contents industry, representing domestic computer graphics companies.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is not noted for his athletic physique, but he is noted for his love of sports, most notably basketball. Moreover, since assuming power, Kim has been promoting sports and promoting the construction of sporting facilities nationwide. In this highly militarized state, why is Kim prioritizing sports? Let's take a look.
While the world has been caught up in the Olympic fever for the last 2 weeks, North Korea has been an exception after it failed to send its athletes to the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. But it had nothing to envy. The reclusive socialist state has been wrapped up in its own winter sports event, the Baekdusan Prize International Figure Skating Festival and the Baekdusan Prize Sports Contest, one of the many events organized to celebrate the birthday of its late leader Kim Jong-il on February 16th. Sports enthusiasm has been running high across North Korea after its young leader set a national goal of building a great sports country.
김정은 체제가 주민들과 굉장히 친밀한 지도자 이미지를 보여주는 그런 차원에서 체육 활동을 활성화시키고 있고, 대외적으로도 북한 체제가 은둔의 왕국이 아니다, 그런 차원에서 대외적으로도 스포츠를 통해서 외부와의 어떤 여러 가지 그 긴장 관계를 좀 풀어가는 그런 촉매제로 스포츠 활동을 활용하는 그 부분도 있다고 볼 수 있겠습니다.
South Korea's Unification Ministry estimates that the number of Kim Jong-un's official visits to sports facilities for inspection or games in 2013 has been quadrupled from a year ago. In efforts to establish a sporting powerhouse, the Secret of North sent its athletes to participate in more than 60 different international sports competitions last year. At the same time, it hosted 6 international tournaments, including the 2013 Asian Cup and the Inter-Club Weightlifting Championship, which South Korean athletes attended in hopes to gain a strong foothold in the international sporting world.
김정은이 이제 소위 말하는 그 최고 존엄의 자리에 올라앉았잖아요. 그 이후에 뭔가 가시적으로 보여주고 싶은 거예요. 우리가 이렇게 잘한다. 우리가 이렇게 성과를 올리고 있다. 그런 것 중에 하나가 체육 선수가 국제 대회에 나가서 뭔가 메달을 따거나 그러니까 그 성과를 올리는 게 굉장히 좋은 방식이거든요.
Amateur sport club activities and physical exercises are also encouraged as much as elite sports in the North. Its citizens, including students, are regularly checked for achievements in their physical strength during a national defense physical training competition, which is held several times a year nationwide.
체육이 심신을 단련하고 개인의 건강을 위해서는 두 번째 문제고요. 그 체육을 해야 되는 이유는 뭐냐면 장군님을 위해서 온몸 바치려면 자기 몸을 무기로 삼아서 늘 준비가 돼 있어야 되기 때문에 몸을 단련하는 수단으로서 체육이 필요한 거고요.
In particular, the Kim Jong-un regime has apparently been trying to boost sports fever across the nation further after the country's latest political upheaval, the execution of Chang Song-taek in December.
장성택 행정부장 처형 이후에 여러 가지 이제 불안정성들을 간접적으로 해소시키는 이런 차원에서 북한이 그런 체육 활동을 대외적으로 많이 하고 또 공개하고 이런 부분이 있는데, 그것은 이제 그 외교 관계에서는 이런 부분에 직접적으로 효과라기보다는 간접적으로 효과는 나타나고 있다.
In another attempt to spread enthusiasm of sports, the regime has been on a building binge of recreational sports facilities, including the International Football School for the Youth in Pyongyang, Mashik Pass Ski Resort, a luxury horse riding club, roller skating rink, sports parks with badminton and volleyball courts, and so on.
김정은은 자기 스스로가 유학생활하면서 스위스에서 스키도 탔고 골프도 치고 그러다 보니까 지금 마식령 스키장, 평양에 또 골프 연습장, 또 승마장, 그야말로 북한 사람들을 울면서 자기에게 충성하게 하는 게 아니라 웃으면서 충성하게 하는 그런 뭔가 새로운 지금 패러다임을 개발하고 있는데, 이것이 북한 사람들에게 어느 정도 지금 먹히고 있다는 거죠. 물론 보통 사람들로서야 이게 배고픈 게 우선이고 배고픈 문제를 해결하자고 하지만, 실제로 평양 중심으로 하는 엘리트층에서는 김정은의 통치 방식이 뭔가 좀 신선하다 이렇게 받아들이는 측면도 없지 않다는 것이죠.
Moreover, the impoverished socialist state is reported to have developed a number of sports facilities and events to lure foreign tourists to earn hard cash. Uri Tours, a US-based agency that specializes in trips to North Korea, currently sells a Pyongyang marathon tour package at either $2,400 or $2,100 for 5-night tours. The North has been also promoting ski packages at the newly built Mashik Pass Resort through the foreign tour agencies, including China-based Korea Tours.
마식령 스키장 그 시설을 보셨겠지만 그게 북한 주민들이 보기에 감탄스러운 건지는 모르겠으나 여기서 스키장 관계자들이 보시면 저것도 문제, 이것도 문제, 저 리프트는 언제 쓰던 것인데 요즘 저런 거 안 써요. 뭐 이런 얘기 나오거든요. 그러면 외국에서 가는 손님들이 신기해서 한 번, 두 번은 가지만 또 가지는 않죠. 그게 문제입니다.
Experts on North Korea issues also suspect that the isolated socialist country may be hoping that sports can help promote cooperation and boost exchanges with the outside world. It has invited Antonio Inoki, a Japanese professional wrestler turned lawmaker, a number of times. While it continues to slander the U.S. government, former U.S. basketball player Dennis Rodman was welcome to visit the Hermit Kingdom.
스포츠 외교를 통해서 북한의 김정은 체제의 그 외부에서 보는 불안감 시선들을 좀 씻어내는 그런 차원으로 북한이 스포츠 외교를 하고 있다. 소치 올림픽에도 김영남 최고인민회 상임위원장이 이제 방문을 하게 되는데 북한이 소치에 지금 올림픽 선수단이 파견이 전혀 안 된 상태에서도 김영남 최고인민회 상임위원장이 간다는 것은 결국 스포츠 외교를 통해서 북한의 그런 전통적인 러시아와의 어떤 그 외교 관계랄지 우방 관계를 또 확인하는 이런 차원에서 본다면 스포츠 외교가 북한으로서는 과거에 비해서 김정일 위원장 체제보다는 김정은 체제에서 보다 활성화되는 그런 것들을 우리가 볼 수는 있습니다.
It still remains to be seen how sincere Kim Jong-un is about improving the quality of life for his people and the relationships with the outside world by using sports politics. For this effort to succeed, North Korea needs to prove to its people and the world that he is not making empty promises.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us again next week. We'll be looking at the growing market for smart watches. We'll also be looking at the potential impact of the inter-Korean reunions of divided families. So do tune in and join us again. But that's it for now. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.